Today's lesson is going to be on solving algebraic proportions. And what you need to remember is, well, we actually use the word excluded value, but we're looking for things, we're talking about things called extraneous solutions. And extraneous solutions are just going to be a solution that you get when you solve an equation that can't be a solution of the original because it's an excluded value. So remember, you can never divide by 0. So somehow you get an answer that's going to make a denominator 0. It's considered extraneous. You need to get rid of it. So when we solve proportions, and I think you know how to do this already, proportions are always solved by cross multiplying. You might need to use a distributive property when you do that. Whatever equation's left over, possibly linear or quadratic, you have to solve. Don't forget that if it's quadratic, you're going to be factoring. And then you need to check your solutions to make sure that there are no extraneous ones. Okay, so here's how this is going to go. Solve and check for extraneous solutions. In this case on number 1, you're going to cross multiply. And again, don't forget how to cross multiply. You multiply each diagonal and set them equal to each other. So in yellow, what I have is 4 times x plus 2. In green, what I have is 3x. Well, this one, 4x plus 2, becomes 4x plus 8 equal to 3x. If you start solving this equation by subtracting 4x on both sides, you get 8 equal to negative 1x. You can never have a negative variable, so bottom line is negative 8 is equal to x. Well, we talk about extraneous solutions, and extraneous solutions only happen if you have a variable in the denominator. The fact that there are no variables in the denominator, there is no such thing as an extraneous solution, so your answer is just fine as is. Okay. Next one. Again, cross multiply. So this diagonal becomes 3x equal to this diagonal. And I'm going to actually distribute as I cross multiply, becomes 2x minus 6. Okay, remember you need to be able to distribute. So I was distributing at the same time I cross multiplied. When you solve this equation, you subtract 2x from both sides, and you get x equals negative 6. Well, now you do have variables in the denominator. And the first question would be if I were to plug in, well, let me do it this way, actually. If I were to look at each denominator, the first denominator being x minus 3 and the second denominator being x, and I set both of those things equal to 0, these would be considered my excluded values. And this one ends up being x is equal to 3, and this one is just x is equal to 0. Well, notice that my solution is not either one of these excluded values. So the answer is perfect. You're good. So for the next problem, again, when I start cross multiplying, what's in yellow, and this time I'm actually going to not distribute from the beginning. So it's x times x minus 3. What's in green becomes 10. Distributive property to get rid of the parentheses, x squared minus 3x equal to 10. Well, here's where I have a quadratic. Set the equation equal to 0. X squared minus 3x minus 10 equal to 0. Factor x minus 5, x plus 2 equal to 0. Solve. X is equal to a 5, x is equal to a negative 2. Well, let's take a look to see if we have any extraneous solutions. The only denominator that has a variable in it is this particular denominator, and the only excluded value would be x equal to 0. Well, neither solution is x equals 0, so both of these solutions is okay. Let's try the last one. Alrighty, this one's going to be a little bit more complicated. When you cross multiply yellow, you're going to get 3 times the binomial x minus 7 equal to, When you cross multiply green, you actually have two binomials. Remember, binomials should always be put into parentheses. And what's going to happen on the right is you're going to have to use the distributive property by FOIL. So let's just stick with the right for a second. If I FOIL out x squared minus 2x minus 7x plus 14, which is just x squared minus 9x plus 14. On the left, when you distribute, it's just 3x minus 21. We have a quadratic. We need to set the equation equal to 0, factor, and solve. So what's going to happen now is we are going to subtract 3x from both sides. We're also going to add 21 to both sides, being left with 0 equal to x squared minus 12x plus 35. Well, now we need to factor this trinomial, and this gets factored by x minus 7, x minus 5 equal to 0. When you solve each piece, you get x is 7, and x is positive 5. Let's take a look at the denominators. Let's see. Here we go. So our denominators, both the denominators are the same. So basically, if I were to look for the excluded value, I would say, what's going to make x minus 7 0? And that answer is 7. Notice that we got a solution of 7, and then we also got an excluded value of 7. 7 ends up becoming extraneous. We can't keep that value because it would make the denominator 0, which would cause it to be undefined. So while it's a solution of what I've just done, I can't accept it with my final answer, and I can only leave the x equals 5 solution. Okay, so that's what you're looking to do. Cross multiply and solve. If you get an answer that ends up being an excluded value, you throw it out, and you keep the answer that works. That should be it. Good luck with the homework.